Welcome to the Jess Turner Talk Show, and I'm the co-host, Miss Laraine. And today we're continuing our show with the mother of a child who over 8 years ago revealed he was transgender. And as parents, we believe we can handle anything and everything our children may say or do. But many have realized that this isn't the case when your child reveals they're transgender. Again, transgender essentially means having the body of one gender and the brain or the mind or the spirit of the opposite gender. And for those of you feeling lost, confused, and maybe even angry, today I have with me Miss Yesenia Alvarez. I think I just messed up on your name. Yesenia Alvarez, founder of Transcend with Love, a for-profit organization intended to help other parents and loved ones as they walk through their journey of transition as a parent of a transgender individual. Welcome back to the show, Yesenia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me again.
Great. Thank you for being here. Now, from our previous show, we explored your emotions and challenges of your son's revelation. He was transgender, and also the challenges you both face. Let's pick up from where we left off. Why the name Transcend with Love?
I wanted something that spoke to transgender, but at the same time, I wanted it to be more subtle. I and it was and the entire purpose, like I said, or like I was stating in the previous interview, was that I really want this to be about the relationship between a parent and their child. That relationship, which I believe is one of the most important relationships that we have, and it got very strained, and it can be very strained when something like this happens. And so I am very aware of the fact that there's going to be parents that agree, and there's going to be parents that don't agree with what their children are doing or stating. So I didn't want it to be very like, okay, this is in your face. I wanted it more of a subtle thing, and being based in the love of a parent for their child. Because I do believe that with love we can transcend almost anything if we really really want to, regardless of agreement, regardless of what we want and don't want. Love for a parent and love for a child is one of the most unique bonds, and it's filled with love. It really
Yeah.
is, and I believe that we can overcome whatever it is with that.
Okay. Can you share some examples of the emotions and concerns that parents of transgender children commonly experience?
Initially, a lot of shock. A lot of it is fear based,
Mhm.
fear and anxiety, um, sadness, a lot of things that I realized later on after, within these 8 years, is that we go through a process very close to grief. We are grieving this child. And I had a hard time at first saying that because I didn't want parents that have actually lost a child to feel like I was minimizing or dismissing their pain, because
Mhm.
I'm not. I know people that have lost children, and it's a horrible uh thing. But I want to explain it in the sense of we are losing who we thought our child was, and the expectations that we had. And as parents, we all have them. We have a little girl and you already see them in their white dress walking down the aisle. You have a little boy and you see them playing football and, all of this stuff. So when your child comes out and says, "Oh, look, I'm not a girl, I'm actually a boy," it's this whole future you had that you are grieving. You're grieving this person. But we have to grieve it. We have to go through the process of the grief in order to be able to open our hearts to this new version that is coming to us.
Do you find it more difficult for men of transgender children to accept in females?
I would have initially said yes, but I have met so many fathers that are so supportive and so loving and just as vocal as the moms are. So I think it really just depends on the person. It's really not about the gender. I think it just depends on the person and their mental not their thoughts and
Yeah.
beliefs, and on how they want to see things forward.
Okay. I think a lot of the challenges that parents have today with accepting their child coming out is their belief system, especially if they grew up one way and this was the only way and they don't see another way. And so here's this brand new way that they are trying to grasp, and they love their children, but some get angry that they want to shake it out of them, shake them back to reality. Or, I've even noticed that some parents have even cut the children off, distance themselves. And so, what role does Transcend with Love play with families that want to push their children away or distance them?
Well, my hope is to be for for any family, but especially those, the person that they can talk to initially, right? The have the resources for them to be able to just really sit with it and think about it, deal with the your own personal emotions as a parent. Because a lot of times that's the thing, is like we're not dealing with our own emotions of it. And we as a parent are going to go through a transition as well. And a lot of times we're so focused on the child, as parents we should be, but at the same time, we need to focus on us, because these are a lot of the emotions that lead us to make some decisions that we might not have made if it had been something else. So my purpose, and the purpose of Transcend with Love, is to be the face of who you contact when you first find out. We are not there to convince either way of beliefs or anything like that. We are there to help the parent process,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to start building that relationship with their child.
Okay.
Um, that I believe was one of the most important things.
Okay. Do parents do they how do you ensure their confidentiality and privacy is supported?
Um, yes, that's a great question. Thank you. I believe that most of the stuff we're doing right now is online. So
Mm-hmm.
just by, having online itself and not meeting in person, I believe is a good way. Eventually, I would love to be able to meet in person and
Mm-hmm.
have some group. And if that's the case, depending on the client, I might plan on having off-duty police officers around, just hopefully not needed,
Right.
but you never know, unfortunately, nowadays. So confidentiality is a big thing, not only for the parents, but for the child. A lot of children, like I said before, ages doesn't matter, aren't ready to tell the world yet. They might
Mm-hmm.
just be ready to tell you. And so it's very important to know where our children are in wanting to tell their story, because it is their story that we're also telling.
Okay. Do you have some children that come to you that their parents don't know?
Um, I have before. I have actually met some children. They're over 18, so they're
Mm-hmm.
adults, but they're young adults that they have been kicked out of their homes. And that's yeah, and helping them try to get things taken care of. And kind of falling into that quote unquote mother role
Okay.
um, for them. And so that has been a role that I have played in the past. I have not had. I've been fortunate that I haven't had children that are under the age of 18 who have come to me. I have
Mm-hmm.
not been put in that position yet, because that would be a difficult position for me to be in. Because I do believe that parents have rights, right? And I don't believe in things being done behind parents' backs.
Okay.
So I'm praying that that is not a position I get put in, and if so, I pray that God can lead me to do the right thing at that
Right.
point.
Okay. So what services do you offer to a young adult that is um, kicked out of their home and they have nowhere to go? Do you offer like maybe are you in collaboration with another organization that will take them in? So what resources do you have for them?
Right now, I don't have that taken care of. That is part of my future plan.
Okay.
I have a future vision of something that is going to be all encompassing. Right now, I what I do is connect them with other people that I know that I would be willing to help them if I'm not able to help them. There's a lot. The good thing is that there's a lot now of organizations that are there for transgender individuals. There's a lot of LGBTQ groups,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a lot more resources than there were in 8 years ago. Unfortunately, the resources are not there for parents.
Yes.
and so that's where I come in. That's where my niche is more so for the parents. If a child comes to me, of course I'm going to try to do everything I can to help that child. But my priority, my expertise is not with the children. It's
Mhm.
with it's with as being a parent, because my son was pretty much 17 when he came out, so he was almost an adult.
Okay. How do you instruct parents to create their home as a safe place for their child that has come out that they're transgender?
I think the easiest thing to do, because this can be done regardless of if you agree or don't agree with
Hmm.
what your child is saying, is is first of all, basically just let them know that you love them, and obviously if this is genuine, if you love them and you are not going to abandon them. Be honest and tell them that you're struggling, so that they need to have some grace on you as much as you need to have grace on them.
Hmm.
Um, and the easiest thing also is just start referring to them by their preferred pronouns. It's very difficult at first. Even if nobody else is doing it, they're going to be facing so many obstacles out in the world. Coming home and feeling like you're safe at home, even if it's just because your parents are agreed to call you a he instead of she or they, is a place of it's a safety net
Hmm.
for them, and at least until they're going through and figuring everything out on their own.
Okay. You mentioned the pronouns, and I know that a lot of people that I've spoken to, they tell me it's so confusing because one day they're he, this next day they're she, and then they may come in and say, "No, address me as they." How do you, it, how do you educate the parents to be open to you don't know who your child is when they wake up, or they may
Right.
leave one way, come home somebody totally different. How do you educate them to embrace the multiple changes that they're going to experience with their child?
That's a difficult one. It is. It's very
Yes, it
difficult
is.
when you're used to calling, like with me, I was used to calling him her, for 17 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then all of a sudden to have to call him him, and then he's got friends that now go by they that I've known all their life. So it is a very difficult thing to do. I got away from trying to figure out the why,
Okay.
because I recognize that I will never really understand why. And it's okay, because how many other things in our lives are we never going to understand the why
A lot.
to? So the way I see it is, if this is what helps my child feel safe right now, and helps their mental and emotional health, then it's something that I'm willing to do as we go through this, right? There's obviously the first thing, you, aside from giving them the love, is if they're not already seeing a therapist, we need to get a therapist on there,
Mm-hmm.
because a therapist is something that not only your child is going to need, but as a parent, that is the one thing I regret the most, is that although my son was in therapy, we never did a family therapy.
Oh,
And
yes.
I really wish we would have. And so I strongly believe that that is a way to really get through the situation as a family, because that child needs family. You need family. The parent, everybody in that unit needs themselves at this point, because you don't know how else anybody else is going to react around you.
Right. And that's important. Do you think that a parent can overly love their child? They're they're trying to be supportive, but they're kind of drowning their child in, you know, I've seen this movie. I don't know the name of it, but when the child came out as transgender, the mom went overboard. She started getting flags and signs and T-shirts and it embarrassed her son because he was like, don't do that. You don't need to do all that. But she wanted the whole
Over.
world to know because she thought in her mind, I'm showing him that I'm supportive and I'm there for him. But it was actually harming him in the process. Have you
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw that same one because it sounds very familiar. But
Yes.
no, okay, so I don't believe that there's a way you can overlove someone, but I
Okay.
do believe that there's a way that we can overexpress our love.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
and because yes, so I can definitely be one of those parents. I can be the one that I so much want my kids to know how much I love them and support them and encourage them that I will go overboard if
Yes.
someone does not ring me in. Um, so the real important thing is to talk with your child. When your child first comes out, one of the main things that us after the love and support and showing them that they're safe is have the conversation of, okay, who do you want me to handle this going forward? Who is this okay for me to share with? Can I share this with this person or that and say, okay. And then at that point, you'll get a feeling of how comfortable the child is to for people to know. If from the very beginning they're like, okay, I'm not sure I want certain people to know, or this, I would think that as a parent we would know, okay, let's just kind of keep it
Hmm.
low. If you want to give a little celebration, maybe just at home, but it really depends on the child. Some children love the attention, some
Yes.
children don't. My son hates attention. My daughter, she likes it a little bit more. So it just depends on the child. But yes, you can definitely over I think the problem that we have as parents nowadays is, at least for me, is that you so much want to show your child that you support them because you've seen such horror stories
Hmm.
about parents that don't,
Yes.
that we let our emotions take
Hmm.
over and not our, our practical side. So I try to say, if this had been anything else, if all of a sudden they came home one day and decided my daughter, she wanted to be a tomboy, and I'll change her pronouns. And I know it's very different, but I'm just kind of
Yes.
giving a more day to day example. Am I going to make such a big deal about it than I'm making right now? So I know it's hard to do that in the moment of the emotion. And that's why I
Hmm.
think it's so important to have someone to talk to, someone that can bring you from the high emotions down to like your analytical side of being, okay, as a parent, what is best in this situation, not what is best for me as a parent or what I think is best for this child. Um, when it comes to the choice, right? Obviously, we
Okay.
always, as parents, are going to do what we think is best for our child to keep them safe.
Right.
But it's more so, what can I do as a parent to help this child know, most importantly, that they're safe right now, that they're
Yeah.
safe and that their story is safe with me also, and ask them permission of what they want and what they don't want. And if they don't know, then give them the time and say, it's on your timeline. You tell me, I just want to respect your boundaries. And that I think would come a long way because I know my son was feeling so lonely that he was terrified that we might not ever speak to him again. And that's scary to think of it.
Yes, it is. I'm going to throw this question in there because this question was asked to someone that I know that if your child decides to marry someone of the same sex, would you go to their wedding?
Absolutely.
Your answer would be absolutely.
Yes. And regardless, honestly, of how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I unfortunately have had situations in my life where family hasn't been there. And it's a very horrible feeling of rejection. So what I tell people that ask me is, regardless if you agree or not, this is a very, very special day for your child and for you as a parent. Um, you I would hate to have my child not see me there, even if they knew I didn't agree. I would be there and I would smile. I would wish them all the best luck and love because regardless of who he's marrying, I want happiness and love and health for
Mm-hmm.
my child. So I would go. Yes.
Okay. I think a lot of parents who say that they will not attend, and even one parent said that they would attend, but when the minister would ask, is there anyone here that feel that these two should not be together, that they will stand up and say yes, because it's an abomination to the Lord. they'd have said their piece, they sit down and let the wedding move on. That would be very devastating to the child. Uh, that would be devastating to me, if somebody would say that to me, that
Right.
I'm an abomination. But it boils back to a person's belief system.
Right.
And if they put their belief system above love, just showing love, let them know before the wedding, I don't condone it, I don't approve of it, but because you're my child, I'm going to be there
Right.
because I want you to know that I love you. Not that I'm approving of this. I want you to know I love you because you're still my child, regardless of what gender you take on. You're still my child. And I think that's important for parents to think about that instead of looking at our belief system. Great, have that, but we're also parents too, and our child
Yes.
needs us, and that's going to be very devastating, and it may be the deciding factor if that child wants you in their life anymore because you weren't
Exactly.
there when they really wanted you to be there.
I'm glad you brought this up. I had to have a really strong conversation with, I don't want to get into with who, but with somebody that is very close to me and my family and to my child. And they, were saying pretty much the same thing, that it was against religion, that God, what if they changed their mind, all this stuff. So basically, the conversation I had with them said, I can't answer
Mhm.
if it's right or wrong. I can, in God's eyes, I can tell you what I believe, and you know what you believe. But what I do know is that God would not want you to not love someone, in my opinion. And when it comes down to it, you have your relationship with God, and my son has his relationship or non-relationship with God.
Mhm.
And that's between you and God and him and God. And if it is wrong and you adamantly say it's wrong, well, you voicing it to God, he already knows.
Right.
He already knows that you believe it's wrong. And here, if it is wrong, then that's something my son is going to have to face, right? That is not between me and him. That is between him and God.
Mhm.
So to me, I think that if you have those beliefs, that's great. Those are your beliefs. But I don't believe that it's necessary to have to make a production of it, especially at a time like a wedding.
Yes.
At that point, I guarantee you, God knows that you do not agree, because I'm sure that it's been told, and God knows all of our hearts.
Yes,
God
he
knows all of
does.
our hearts. God knows everything. Um, and that's when I had to recognize also, when I was trying to figure this out, that I was making myself more important than what I was, because it's not about all about my belief. It's about
Mhm.
my son's belief also, and other people's beliefs. And believing that God, and in my case, Jesus, love and accept us all.
Yes, he does. Okay, we are actually out of time again. And I would love to continue this conversation at a later date because there's still more. And I'm sure you have so much more to talk about, especially your organization, Transcend with Love. Every time I get to the end of the show, I can't, excuse me. I invite you to join us as we continue this conversation at a later date. As our producer, Jess Turner, always says, don't ponder it in your heart. Let's talk about it on the Jess Turner Talk Show. Thanks for tuning in, and goodbye.
Thank you.